we're studying about plant hormones and responses, which is chapter 22.5. We are on textbook page number 639. Okay, so let me first recap the contents we covered in our last lesson. So the verse from the Quran related to this topic is about the various plants which are mentioned in the Quran as medicines, as also the treatment for various diseases is mentioned in the Quran. And we have the things like cinnamon and
Miss Seema?
Yeah?
Miss Shadin is absent because she has an appointment in the hospital.
Who?
Shadin.
Shadin? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for informing me.
Thank you, Miss.
Okay. Okay, so the various herbs which we use and also the various foods which are mentioned in the Quran which we get from the plants, all of them, they have been, you can find them under Surah Maida. Okay, so you can see all those talking about the various plants and the foods we eat. Okay, the objectives for this topic is to identify several plant hormones and their effects on plants, and to explain how plants respond to environmental stimuli, and to study about how the hormones regulate plant function.
Miss Seema?
Now,
Dana and Lynn can't join.
okay, let us invite them. Dana and Lean. That's it?
Yeah.
Okay. The key concept for this topic is plant hormones. They guide plant growth and development. And we are going to talk about the 4 plant hormones, which are cytokinins, auxins, gibberellins, and florigens. So we discussed in the last class about how the hormones, they help in the plant growth. A hormone is a chemical messenger produced in one part of an organism that affects the activity of cells in another part. Okay, we know how the hormones work even in the human body. So hormones direct and regulate many activities that are important to survival and reproduction. Hormones begin their work when they move from the cells that make them to their target cells. Target cells have receptors that recognize the hormone, and when a hormone meets the right receptor, it causes a response. Okay, so the various types of plant hormones, they cause various responses in the plants. They are responsible for the growth, for the increase in height, and also for the production of beautiful flowers and fruits. So these hormones are responsible for the ripening of the fruits, for the various things which take place in the plants. So there are several groups of plant hormones based on what they do and their chemical properties. So let's talk about the first type of hormones, which are gibberellins. Okay, so gibberellins, what do? They produce big changes in size. They end seed dormancy, they start germination, they help a young seedling to grow quickly. Okay, so they end seed dormancy, meaning they help the plant, they help the seedling to grow from the seed. Okay, that means the seed dormancy has ended and the seed has started germinating. And for this to take place, the gibberellins, they help the seedling to grow. And gibberellins are also responsible for the large size of many fruits and the vast upward growth of some flower stalks. Okay, so wherever you see the plant growing very, very tall, and also the large size of the many fruits or the hybrid variety of fruits, all those are because of the hormone gibberellins. Okay, so basically what is the function of this hormone? It produces big changes in the size. Okay, so till this part we discussed in our last topic. So you can also check in this picture, gibberellins are plant hormones produce dramatic increases in size. This is the example given even in your textbook. It is an agave plant, only flowers one time. So when the plant is at least 75 years old, gibberellins, they trigger its flower stalk to shoot up over the course of a. So you can shoots up gibberellins in it. Then, which we are going to discuss is ethylene. Did we discuss about ethylene also in the last lesson? I guess we were discussing this. Okay. So ethylene, it is responsible for the ripening of the fruits. Okay. So if you put an apple in an airtight container for a day, and it will get soft and start to look rotten. Okay, so the apple is being ripened abnormally fast by its own production of ethylene. So this ethylene which is produced, you can also see the ethylene gas which is used by the various farmers in order to ripen the fruits quickly. Okay, so a plant hormone that causes ripening and is naturally produced by fruits. So this hormone, it is responsible for the ripening of the fruits. It is though produced naturally in the fruits. Some of the farmers and the botanists these days, they are trying to cause early ripening of the fruits, of course for their spraying them with the ethylene gas. Okay. Commercial growers can use ethylene to their advantage. Fruits such as apples that are shipped long distances must be kept in rooms where the ethylene is filtered out, or they may become overripe during the journey. So some fruits such as the tomatoes, as you can see in the picture, they are picked before they are ripe. So once they reach their destination, they are exposed to ethylene gas, which makes them turn a ripe tomato red. They may not taste so ripe, though, because the artificial ripening process does not bring out the same sugars that a vine-ripened tomato has. Okay, so this ethylene, it should be produced naturally in the fruits because it causes the natural ripening, producing the sugars and the sweetness in the fruit, like the apples and tomatoes and various other fruits. But the commercial producers, what are they doing these days? To allow the over-ripening of the fruits during the transit, because they are being imported and exported from different countries, the fruits. So before they get ripened itself, they cut off from the trees or from the vines, okay, and during the transit, they spray them with the ethylene gas so that only the outer side of the fruit is ripened, but not from the inside. So you can see the various fruits which we get in the supermarkets today. For example, tomatoes itself, from outside, if you see them, they look like they are ripe, but they are not soft and tasty. When you cut them out, they are still very ripe from inside, and you don't get the natural taste when they ripen naturally on the tree or on the vine, on the tomato vine. Okay, so this is because they are using this hybrid, the various the various things they are using these days. Okay, they are spraying these fruits with the ethylene gas, and the various measures they are taking these days in order to make the development, to quicken the process. Okay, why? In order to earn a lot of. They're doing this, or commercial measures are being taken these days, and that is why you can see there is no taste in the fruits these days. Though they look ripe, they are not sweet from inside. Okay, so what is the function of this particular hormone, ethylene? It helps in the ripening of the fruits. Okay, you can see in this picture the ethylene, it causes ripening of the tomatoes. The raw tomatoes, they turn into red, and they also become soft and tasty because of the glucose which is produced, if this thing happens naturally because of the production of the ethylene. Okay. Next we shall talk about the next enzyme, which is cytokinins. Cytokinins are plant hormones that stimulate cytokinesis, which is the final stage of cell division. Okay, so they are produced in growing roots and developing seeds and fruits. Cytokinesis is the process which we talk about during cell division. Cytokinesis is the name given to the division of the cytoplasm. Okay, so you must have studied about this in your grade 10 when you were discussing in detail about the mitosis. Okay, so mitosis, cytokinesis is basically the division of the cytoplasm. Okay. I'm sorry. So they are produced in growing roots and developing seeds and fruits. They are also involved in the growth of side branches. This growth is called lateral growth, and commercial florists, they make use of another property of cytokinins, that is, they slow the aging process of some plant organs. For example, leaves dipped in a cytokinin solution stay green much longer than normal. Okay, so all the florists who sell these flowers and the leaves and who make these pretty flower bouquets and all, so they spray these cytokinins on those bouquets so that they stay fresh for longer. The leaves, they stay green for a longer period of time without getting dried up. Okay, so the basic function of the cytokinin is to stimulate the cytokinesis, which is the division of the cytoplasm, and also they are produced for growing roots and developing seeds and fruits. And they are also used in the growing of lateral branches, and or even the florists, they use these in order to spray on the flowers so that they don't get spoiled easily, or they stay green as much as longer. Okay, clear about cytokinins? They stimulate cytokinesis. You can see the same information is repeated in this slide as well. They are produced in growing roots, seeds and fruits, and they are involved in growth of side branches. Okay, so let's talk about auxins next. So auxins, they make plant cells an apical meristem or growing tip, and it becomes longer. Okay, so auxins, they are involved in the lengthening of the plant cells produced in the apical meristems or growing up. Okay, so this part which is growing in a stem, it is known as the apical meristem. Okay, so you can see the auxin spreads equally down both sides of the plant. So the auxin works like this in the sideways and also on the tip. Auxin collects on the shady side. Okay, like this. Okay. So what do? They are involved in lengthening of the plant cells produced in the apical meristem or the growing tip. Auxins, they stimulate growth of the primary stem, preventing growth of new branches. And gardeners, they can use this property of auxins to control branching patterns by cutting off the tip of the growing stem. Okay, so these auxins, they do not allow the stem to grow into branches, but it helps it to grow longer from the tip itself. So the gardeners, they make use of this property of auxins in growing various things. With no growing tip, there is less auxin in the stem, and side branches are encouraged to grow. Okay, so conversely, high concentration of auxins can prevent plant growth altogether, particularly in the roots. For this reason, auxins are a common ingredient in herbicides, chemicals, and to kill unwanted plants. Okay, so basically they are also used as a type of medicine in order to kill the unwanted plants, and also in order to stop the branching of the stem, the auxins are used. The lengthening of the cells triggered by auxins also controls some forms of tropism, which is the movement of a plant in response to an environmental stimulus. Okay. So what is tropism? Tropism, it is described as a movement of a plant in the response to the environmental stimulus. What do you understand by the term? By tropism. What is the response to the environmental stimulus? Okay, so there is something known as phototropism and tropism. The way the plants, they respond to the sunlight, it comes under phototropism. So whenever you see a plant growing, you can see it grows facing towards the sun. Okay, so that quality of a plant or that response to the stimuli, it is known as phototropism. Similarly, tropism you can describe as the movement of a plant in response to the environmental stimuli. To any stimulus in the environment, if the plant is moving, such movement is known as tropism. Okay, so the lengthening of the cells triggered by the auxins also controls some forms of tropism. So the auxins, it controls or it does not allow the plant to grow or respond to the tropism by growing in various directions. It only allows the plant to grow from the tip. So if a stimulus such as light hits one side of a stem, auxins will build up in the cells on the shaded side of the stem. So these cells then elongate or grow longer, causing the stem to bend towards the light. Okay, so as you will soon learn, auxins have different effects in the cells of different plant organs. Okay, so this is the basic function of the auxins. They not only help in growing the stem, the apical meristem or growing tip becoming longer. This causes the main stem to grow upward. However, a high amount of auxin in the root can prevent the plant growth. Okay, so there should be auxins present in higher amount also, because they prevent the plant growth altogether. So this is why auxins are often used in herbicides, chemicals used to kill unwanted plants, that is, they stop them from growing. As you will learn in the next section, auxins also control some forms of tropism, as I just told you, which is the movement of a plant in response to an environmental stimulus. So you can see this is how the auxins, they are working here. These are the ones which you can see in this picture. They lengthen the plant cells in the growing tip. They stimulate growth of the primary stem, and they control some forms of tropism. A tropism is the movement of a plant in response to an environmental status. Okay. So this is about the hormones and their function. Let's quickly summarize about the all the types of hormones which we studied so far before we proceed further. Okay, so which was the first type of hormone we discussed about? We discussed about gibberellins. What do? They help in producing changes in the size. That means they help in rapid growth of a young seedling. They end the seed dormancy, and they also help in the rapid growth of some flower stalks. That means basically they help in the growth of the plant. Then we spoke about ethylene. It is used in the ripening of the fruits. It is also naturally produced in the fruits, which help in the ripening of the fruit. And also some of the commercial farmers, they spray the ethylene gas on top of the fruits in order to cause quick ripening. Okay, so ethylene's function is causing the ripening of the fruits. Next, we spoke about cytokinins. Cytokinins, they stimulate the cytokinesis, which is the final stage of cell division. They are producing growing root and developing seeds and fruits. Okay, then we spoke about auxins. What do? They help the main stem to grow forward. Also, they are used to kill the unwanted plants. Okay, and they are also used in order to control the tropism. What is tropism? Tropism, it is the movement of plant in response to an environmental stimulus. So these are the four important hormones which we discussed so far. Now let's talk about how plants can respond to light, touch, gravity and seasonal changes. Girls, do you have any doubts so far? Is it clear? Any doubts? Is it clear, girls?
Clear.
Okay, thank you. So if you have ever touched a hot pan in the kitchen, you likely responded by pulling your hand away quickly, right? And if you have ever been outside on a very hot summer day, you may have responded by moving to a shady spot. While plants cannot uproot themselves and change locations, they have other ways of responding to their environment. Okay, similarly as we the external stimuli like the various actions which happen in our body automatically, okay, which is the jerk. When we touch something hot, we quickly jerk our hand back, and whenever we go out in light, we start closing our eyes or covering our eyes with the shade, or coming quickly back to the shade. So this is how we respond to the stimuli. Similarly, even plants, they respond in various ways to the external stimuli. Of course, they cannot change their position, they cannot move from one place to another, but in the same place, they try to take some measures, or they try to respond to this external stimuli in various ways. So how do they respond? We'll talk about that in phototropism, thigmotropism and gravitotropism. Okay, gravitotropism. Okay, so let's talk about it. Phototropism, it is the tendency of a plant to grow towards light. As you can see in this picture, this plant, it is growing towards the window. Why? Because the sunlight is coming from through the window. So auxins, they build up on shaded side of the stem. Okay, and cells on the shaded side, they lengthen, causing stem to bend towards the light. So auxins, what do? They do not grow on the side which is faced towards the sunlight. They grow on the other side which is not facing the sunlight. Why? Causing the stem to bend towards the light. Okay, so when a light hits the plant stem, it causes the auxins to build up on the shaded side. And remember that in a stem, auxins cause cell irradiation. as described earlier, cells lengthening on the shaded side of the stem causes the stem to bend towards the light. This tendency of a plant to grow towards the light is known as phototropism. So if we grow a plant in a space with only one small light source, the plant will lean towards the light through the process of phototropism. So let's say you turn that plant around so that it's pointing away from the light. If you come back in a few days, you will likely find the plant growing in the direction of the light again. Okay, so this response of the plant, which is shown by the plant by bending towards the light or facing towards the light, it is known as phototropism. If you want to define it, it is the tendency of a plant to grow towards light. Clear? Now let's talk about, okay, so this is how the plant it responds to the light. You can see when the light hits the plant stem, the auxins they build up the shaded side, and the plant it starts growing towards the or bending towards the light. Now let's talk about thigmotropism. What is thigmotropism? Many plants also have a response to touch called thigmotropism. This quality is apparent in climbing plants and vines. Tendrils, they emerge from the leaf base of these plants and grow in coils around anything they touch. In these curling fingers, contact with an object triggers the same sort of cell growth that is found with other tropisms. So plants are sensitive to many kinds of touch-like stimuli. For example, a plant regularly exposed to winds on a hillside will grow as if it is being pushed in the direction of the wind. Okay, repeatedly touching a young plant can even stunt its growth. Okay, so this is known as thigmotropism. Like how the plant responds to the touch is known as thigmotropism. Okay, so this can be seen in the climbers, as you can see in this picture, or the vines. Can you see these tendrils which are surrounding? So the plants grow in coils around anything they touch. Okay, so whenever they touch the stem or a stick, or for example, if there is a rod or anything besides that, whatever they touch, they coil around it. So contact with the object causes the same type of cell growth found in other tropisms. So wind is also a type of touch. So plants on a windy hillside will grow as if pushed in the direction of the wind. Okay, so even when the wind touches them, they grow the opposite direction of the wind, because they grow as if they are being pushed by the wind, because they are even feeling touched by the wind. Okay, so this tendency or this response to the stimuli of touch is known as thigmotropism. Now let's talk about gravitropism. When a seed germinates underground, the root grows downward into the soil and the shoot grows upwards towards the soil surface. We all know that how the root grows and how the shoot grows. So this up and down growth of a plant is known as gravitropism. As it has gravity in that term, it is known as gravitropism. Okay, the way the root goes down into the soil and it grows downwards, and the way the shoot it shoots up, the shoot or the stem, it grows taller. So this up and down growth of the plant is known as gravitropism, because the plant is responding to Earth's gravitational pull. Downward growth is positive gravitropism, because the growth is in the direction in gravity pulls. And upward growth is negative gravitropism, because it is the growth against the force of gravity. Okay, so it grows downwards because of the gravitational pull, and it grows upwards against the gravitational pull. So auxins, they play part in gravitropism, which is more complex than phototropism. The root growth is stimulated by low levels of auxin, but is slowed down by high levels of auxin. So auxins, they build up on the lower side of horizontally growing roots, so that the upper side it grows faster and the roots they grow downwards. So at the same time, high levels of auxin which stimulate shoot growth build up in the lower side of the stem. This building, it causes the stem to grow upward. Okay, so because of the role of the auxins played, the stem, it instead of growing downwards, it grows upwards. Okay, how does it happen? The root growth is stimulated by the low levels of auxin. Also, it can be slowed down by the high levels of auxin. The auxins, what do? They build up on the lower side of the horizontally growing root, so that the upper side it grows faster. And the root grows downwards, and at the same time, high levels of auxin would stimulate the shoot growth. So the shoot, it grows taller because of the production of high levels of auxin, and this is how the shoot, it grows against the gravity pull, and it grows taller on the opposite side. Okay, so this response of the plant, or this growth of the plant upwards as a shoot and downwards as a root, is known as gravitropism. Okay, so these are the three types of responses, how the plants respond to the external stimuli. We spoke about phototropism, which is the response to the light. We spoke about thigmotropism, which is a response of the plants to the touch. And we spoke about gravitropism, which is the response of the plants to the gravitational pull of the earth. Now let's talk about rapid responses. Okay, we have 10 minutes more. We can go ahead about it. So some plants, they have very rapid responses that do not involve growth. These rapid responses are often adaptations that help to protect plants from predators. For example, the mimosa or sensitive plant quickly folds its leaves together a few seconds after being touched. This mimosa plant, it is also known as the touch me not plant. I'm sure you've come across it. So whenever you try to touch its leaves, just seconds later you touch it, it tries to close itself. Okay, so this is a type of adaptation which the plant does in order to protect itself. Okay, so this plant is known as mimosa or sensitive plant or touch me not plant. The other type of plant is Venus flytrap, as you can see in this picture. It can close its leaves on an unsuspecting insect in less than a second. So whenever an insect comes and lands inside the trap, it closes quickly, trapping the insect inside in a second. So scientists recently discovered that when the leaves are touched, the water rushes to the cells at their bases, changing their curvature and snapping the trap shut. Okay, so these are examples of the plants as to how they respond to the touch. Okay, so this Venus flytrap, what does it do? As soon as the fly lands onto the trap inside, because of the touch of that insect, what happens whenever the insect lands? The water, it rushes to the cells at their bases, changing their curvature, and this makes the trap shut immediately within seconds, trapping the insect inside. Now what happens to the insect inside? It is digested by the enzymes which is released. Okay, so basically this plant, it survives on insects. Okay, that means these type of plants, they are both autotrophic and heterotrophic. They can also digest the other living organisms. Okay, so this is about the rapid responses. The examples of rapid responses are the sensitive plant, the mimosa, and also the Venus flytrap. Yeah.
Miss?
Yes, Vicky.
Teams keeps kicking me out.
Why is it? A few girls were also complaining about this since morning. Do you get automatically logged off?
Yes.
I really don't know. I'm just jotting down the names, yeah, Dana. I also reported about the Layan and Lean, and a few girls were unable to join like you the session. But I believe she's still working on it, our IT supervisor. I shall report it once again, Dana.
Okay, thank you.
I'm so sorry for the inconvenience caused, dear. I want you to go through the recording if you missed out on any part of the lesson.
Okay, Miss, thank you.
You're most welcome, sweetie. There are 19 attendees today. Why are so many absent? Okay, let me download the attendance once again. Okay, girls, any questions so far? Any questions about the Venus flytrap or any other topic which we discussed so far? Is it clear? So let's talk about one more response which is known as photoperiodism. Now what is photoperiodism? What triggers a shrub to flower? What triggers a shrub to flower or a tree to drop its leaves? how does the shrub flowers, how does the tree drop its leaves? So plants, they take signals from the changing lengths of day and night throughout the year. So they do react to the day and the night, obviously to the sunlight during the day and how it turns dark during the night. So this response is known as photoperiodism. Okay, what is it? The plants, they take signals from the changing lengths of the day and the night throughout the year. Like also depending upon the season. Like the length of the day is more during the summer and shorter during the winter. So they take note of all this and they react to it. So the response of the plants to such a change in the day and the night, the length of the day and night throughout the year according to the seasons, it is known as photoperiodism. So some plants, they keep very accurate clocks when it comes to the amount of daylight or darkness in a 24-hour period. In fact, some plants that flower while the day or short, such as poinsettias, they will not bloom if there is 1 extra minute of light in the evening. So they work like the clock does. Okay, so they work like an accurate clock. Okay, so for the amount of the daylight they need or the darkness in a 24-hour period. Okay, so they flowers only during the daylight, and we are especially talking about the shrub known as poinsettias. It will not bloom if there is 1 extra minute of light in the evening. Okay, so they calculate the time, and depending upon this calculation, the flowers bloom and the various things happen, the growth happens in the shrub. Shorter days and longer nights during the fall, they help trigger the leaves of many deciduous trees to change color. So this response is part of the preparation for winter when these trees enter a stage of dormancy. So winter dormancy in plants is functionally similar to the hibernation of many animals during the winter months. You know what is hibernation? Girls, what is hibernation? Who can tell me?
When animals they sleep through the winter.
Yeah, great. Some animals, they take shelter and they sleep throughout the winter. Okay, so such stage is known as hibernation. So like animals, even the plants, they undergo hibernation. So winter dormancy in plants is functionally similar to the hibernation of many animals during the winter months. With less rainfall and less direct sunlight, it is more energy efficient for these plants to shut down and rely on reserve sugars than it is for them to photosynthesize. Obviously, there is less sunlight during the winter months, and also there is not enough rainfall, so the plants, they cannot photosynthesize a lot. So what do? They shut them down, so they shut themselves down, and they rely basically on the reserves of sugars that they stored. Okay, so then it is for them to, they cannot obviously photosynthesize a lot because there is not a lot of sunlight and rainfall. So what happens to the leaves? Leaves therefore begin to die in the fall. Chlorophyll, the pigment that gives leaves their green color, breaks down, and once the chlorophyll is gone, the remaining leaf pigments become visible and new pigments are produced. Water and nutrients are drawn out of the leaves for the rest of the tree to use during the winter, and the leaves eventually fall off the tree. Now you know the reason why the leaves, they fall off the trees during winter, and why that particular season is known as fall. Fall because the leaves, they fall off, and why? The reason is this. The trees, they go into a state of hibernation, meaning as there is no enough sunlight or rainfall during the winter seasons, they cannot photosynthesize or make their own food. Okay, so they need to rely on the reserve sugars. So what happens to the chlorophyll present in the leaves, and what happens to the leaves is the water from the leaves is absorbed. The chlorophyll is also broken down and is utilized by the plant, and the leaves, they fall off, giving the nutrition to the rest of the tree to survive the hibernating period. So this is explained about in photoperiodism. I believe the topic is clear. Let me go through the responses to the stimuli once again. We spoke about phototropism, which is about the response of the plants to the sunlight or the trees to the sunlight. We spoke about thigmotropism, which this is how the plants, they respond to the touch. Okay, the touch of wind, or the touch of whenever they touch another stem or another stick or something, they try to curl around it because of this response to the touch, which is known as thigmotropism. We also study about gravitropism, which is a response of the plant to the gravitational pull, as to how the roots they grow into the soil and how the stem it grows upwards. Then we also spoke about the rapid responses of the plants, like the plant mimosa, which shut itself down. The leaves they close whenever we touch it, and also the Venus flytrap. So these rapid responses, there are often adaptations to help protect themselves from predators and also to protect themselves from people who can cause damage or animals who can cause them damage. Then we spoke about photoperiodism, which is about the response in which plants they take signals from the changing lengths of day and night throughout the year. Okay, so this response is known as photoperiodism, and this is how the leaves they fall off the trees during the fall, and also the shrubs they grow flowers because of this response. That pretty much wraps up. So I summarized everything which we studied from this topic. We are done with plant hormones and responses. If you have any questions, please go ahead. Girls, do you have any questions? No? Okay, let me ask you a question then. What stimulus causes each of the following tropisms, like phototropism or gravitropism or thigmotropism? What stimulus causes it? I just now told you. The stimulus for phototropism is light. The stimulus for gravitropism is gravity, and thigmotropism is the touch. Okay, let me ask you one more question. If you started your own plant nursery, explain 2 ways in which you could use different plant hormones to your advantage. Will you use any of the plant hormones like gibberellins, ethylene, cytokinins, or auxins? How can you use them? Okay, the time is up. It's 12:11 already. Okay, girls, we shall solve the worksheet for this topic in our next lesson. Okay, see you tomorrow again, inshallah. Okay, see you ladies. Take bye bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're most welcome. Bye bye.